in the fall after a long, hot summer training to become both a lieutenant in the U.S. Air Force and also a chaplain. I had a hard time picking out my outfit this morning, and it was the one time since I've been back that I wish someone would tell me what to wear. But just let me tell you, the trade-off is nice. Not wearing full camo in July in Alabama is nothing short of miraculous. You know, this summer I got to do some humbling ministry. I prayed over young airmen about to deploy for the first time, did an impromptu memorial service for a fallen airman in the C-17 alongside the Aero Medevac team, ministered to gravely injured airmen in the burn and amputee units of Brooke Army Military Hospital in San Antonio, and was asked to lead both the Memorial Day service and the final Commitments Day prayer. It was a busy summer. It was a hard summer, but a life-changing summer. I changed, and I've come home to a changed church. I am so thankful to be home with y'all in this beautiful sanctuary on this chilly Sunday morning, and back with these amazing youth in our youth ministry. You know, I was thinking about the diversity of airmen that I ministered to this summer. Christian, Wiccan, Jewish, Muslim. And middle schoolers and high schoolers I have here at Central. I remember an experience I had back in Texas 2 years back. 2 years ago, I was a high school youth minister at my home church, University Christian Church. It's a DOC church as well. And I helped organize our youth group to do an interfaith series with the local Jewish synagogue and their high school youth groups. Over the course of 3 weekends, each group got to participate in their counterparts worship services, followed by a Q&A session, and presentation of text, clothing, and explanation of rituals and holidays by a head religious leader, followed by a shared meal among the youth where the kids could ask questions that they weren't going to ask the adults. On the drive back from the Islamic temple, one of my boys looks at me, crusted upper lip with dry hummus, and says, "I didn't know they ate as much hummus as I do." I didn't know that they could skateboard. I added Muhammad on Instagram, and his skate moves are cool. I asked what they thought about the similarities he found in our interfaith series, and with all the sincerity in the world, he says, "I know, all of our stories and foods are so close to each other, it's like we're related." I grinned and said, "It's as if we all come from some dude named Abraham." This insight told us, the ministry team, we need to go back and do a refresher course on Abrahamic history. When you work with mainly young boys, mandated reading, especially scripture, is the worst possible thing that could ever happen to them ever in the history of boyhood, outside of the rejection of the school dance. So we adapted, and we watched a series of easy to understand, but educational and fun cartoon videos on the 3 retrograde of Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. It caused them to find a stronger identity in who they are as Christians, and also to not get too hung up on the dangerous arrogance of believing your identity and your community is superior to others. That superiority leads to believing you have a monopoly on God, putting a box on God, and drawing a line in the sand between yourself and others. When you feel superior, or inferior for that matter, there lies a feeling of being disconnected and separated. And isn't it at birth that we felt the pain and cold of our first experience of separation through the exit of the womb and the disconnection of the umbilical cord? At the end of the day, all we want is connection. Yet we are the very perpetrators of our own disconnection through our self-centeredness and self-reliance. That hyper self-reliance and independence reinforces that we don't need anyone, that we're fine on our own. That robs us of community. It robs us of bonding with others. See, we have brain chemicals that are really when we help one another accomplish a task. Quite literally, neurological hardwiring for being of service. We are wired to talk about our feelings and laugh and talk and cry and share ourselves with one another. cells and hormones and breath and DNA are exchanged as we become one. Serving and bonding. Perhaps that is why our physical organs ache when we feel disconnected when we go through a romantic breakup. Or our kids outgrow a phase of dependence on their parents. Or our church community is in duress. God wired us to be together, connecting, serving, bonding. Tribalism began not necessarily because of other tribes, while that is a factor, but because each tribe had to face the harsh climate and dangerous predators. We had to trust each other. Families had to trust other families. Start villages and travel in nomadic groups so they could use the cognitive energy to figure out food and predator strategies. If we can trust one another, then we don't have to expend that energy on fighting other people. We can do it towards the real threats of winters, droughts, and the exchange of tool-making textiles. The phrase blood is thicker than water is commonly understood to mean that family blood is thicker than the bond you have with friends, right? But that's not the original statement. The original quote is the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. Meaning the bonds you have by choice and mutual submission are thicker than the ones you have by biological default. So these communities, family and friends, when they encounter other tribes, they have two choices, essentially. Trade goods, fight, help each other, kill each other. God didn't just wire us for connection, but He wired us for fight too. Adrenaline and testosterone and vasopressin, a concoction that causes us to leave our dopamine and oxytocin with our morals and values at the door. These chemicals can be addicting too. They give us a sense of self-righteousness and pride. They give your fists and body abilities of strength and speed you otherwise don't have, but they stay. Your brain fires faster. Words come flying out of your mouth. Actions are taken. Before you know it, you're standing there, humbled, asking for forgiveness because you just got too caught up in the heat of the moment. Fighting is on the flip side of loving at the same point. You'll notice if you've ever been in a breakup or trying to focus on something, and a person picks up fight just to get attention from you. Combat fighting is just as close and intimate as the space travel before it is. And what's more is the bond you have with those with whom you fight alongside, the bond between soldiers fighting the enemy and phrase thickest thieves, that holds weight. In fact, you're far more likely to do greater injury to an alleyway robber if you're protecting someone else than you would if you're only protecting yourself. Soldier bonds are real. Jesus says the greatest act of service one can perform is to lay down one's life for a friend, being required to fight. When you're in the body, if you are perpetually angry or defensive or offended or lacking connection and trust between yourself and another, those chemicals get stored in muscular tissue, organ tissue, skin tissue, fat tissue. The body will get sick. Ulcers, tension in the back and shoulders, indigestion, high blood pressure, migraines, heart attacks, stroke. In fact, science has found that people who hold grudges over long periods of time start to see degeneration in the ligaments, bones, muscles due to chronic release of stress and adrenaline-related hormones in the body. The very chemicals that kept you alive in a fight will kill you in the end. That's not a theory. That's a scientific promise. So here, the spirit of life wires us to fight and protect, but only for a limited amount of time before that fight and protection actively backfires on you. However, there is scientifically backed evidence that love heals, love saves, love connects. Studies have shown that people recovering from addiction, or cancer, or death have far greater health physically and mentally when recovering in community, sharing themselves and connecting with others. You know, I think we get caught up in love and loving all as this big romantic love, or you love your friend or your child or your best friend. And it has to be this massive thing that because you love all as Jesus vehemently commands, you suddenly must be best friends with everyone and sing Kumbaya. That's pretty dualistic thinking, and I think that's pretty reasonable. Love doesn't mean liking everyone. Throwing grace to that person in your community that you just wish you moved to Antarctica. It means being kind, being decent, being authentically present to the person who didn't vote the same way you did, or worships the way you did, or Or you can drive us down I-25 and be you, but like me. Loving all means pausing to see the in-between lines instead of reacting to the surface. Loving all means trying to understand someone else's humanness and changing your attitude, your strategy to react to it. Loving all means giving a pause. Loving all, to include yourself, does not mean you suddenly become ecstatic about your cellulite, or your height, or your stretch marks, or your financial debt. It means you come to accept and understand and be a little more gentle about your plan of action and the words you use when speaking to yourself. Hate and shame, whether at others or yourself, has never led to lasting positive life-giving results. Following Jesus' commands of love and tolerance is hard work. So what do we do when we are wired for both love and war, for good and bad, for right and wrong? In Genesis chapter 3, verse 21, God says that Adam living alone is not good and takes Eve from his rib and creates woman. God commanded from the beginning, that we should not be doing this life alone. So he created an entirely different organism that thinks, and behaves, and moves, and speaks differently, separately. In causing separation, God created diversity. He created difference. When they were separated, the outside threats of sneaky serpents and tempting trees acted on them. In creating diversity, he created a need for us to overcome differences in order to come together and create community, family, life, and a shield against those sneaky serpents and tempting trees in life. When you find yourself separating or disconnecting from others, what you're actually doing is dehumanizing others. And in turn, you're dehumanizing yourself. When you disconnect, you dehumanize. God initially made Adam alone, but it was not sustainable. It wasn't full. It wasn't whole. And incompleteness, disconnection, will not produce life or love or goodness. Your tribe is good on its own, but it's not sustainable. Your anger is good in its purpose, but it's not sustainable. Your love is good on its own, but it is deepened when we return after we have strayed. Good fences build good neighbors. But don't forget you have to cross the fence to shake the hands of the neighbors to have that connection. You have to acknowledge your own needs for security and needs for community first to shake the hand of that stranger. You don't have to share every meal with a stranger, but it would behoove the both of you to share some sugar. Nothing of what our master do today is easy. It takes work. It's unfair, really, that I'm standing here asking you today to be humble, to remember that you're not God, that you can't control outcomes and behaviors of other people, that we have to be the ones. We have to be the ones to do the work and change in our messed up family, work, and social dynamics. There will always be a list of things wrong with other people that we hope they'll change too, as if we're bargaining, negotiating. You know, there was a minister, a woman, and she basically sang a sermon, and afterwards she's shaking hands with her congregation, and a man approached her, spit on her robe. He expressed his disdain for how his church allowed a woman to stand at the pulpit. A grown man spitting on a person for talking about God because she didn't share the same organs as he did. Wow. This woman was violated in a number of ways in that interaction. Physically, professionally, theologically, emotionally, socially. She had every right to spit back, or at least mouth off in return. But instead she paused. An intuitive thought, hearing, voice of God, opening. She had this moment. How deeply this man's wounds must go that he can even touch the scars. It is cognitively tricky to sit in the boat of life matters. It's much easier to put things in boxes to say, these values are right, these values are wrong. This person is bad, this person is good, this is wrong, this is right. Categories are boxes. And where is there ever freedom in a box? We die in boxes. Very 6 feet deep. It takes great maturity to see that life and your emotions and social dynamics and religions and beliefs and all these chaotic factors in life are fluid. They can't be put in a box. It's safe to stay in a box. You sleep better, right? Things are certain. Things are organized and neat. But nature isn't neat. Nature is chaotic and messy. It requires energy and strength and maturity to say my divorce or my alcoholic rock bottom, or me getting fired is simultaneously horrifying and aggravating and humiliating, but also relieving and liberating. It requires work on your part to acknowledge your boss or coworker has other bosses bringing you down, their news, that they may be having trouble at home like you are, that they hate to tell you right as much as you hate it. It requires great emotional intelligence and awareness that humans are complex creatures, and you're entitled to have both and all emotions in a situation. Don't sit in complacency, labeling extremes within yourself, and then turn around and label extremes onto the person in front of you. We are wired for love and war and peace and boredom. The both and the all and the in-between mosaic of what it means to be human. Life is not black and white. It's not even gray. It's rainbow. And the greater capacity you have to name your emotional colors, it's the greater capacity you will have to move through the process and reconnect again. You have to reconnect with yourself and your own self-love efficiently, be able to connect with others. You know, I would never stand from a pulpit and preach cliches about world peace to a congregation. So fight, if you must. But know when to put down your spear before holding your spear begins to kill you back. Know that being pleasant and decent and kind can change the energy of a fight and tone it down, calming the fight, softening the harsh language, lowering the blood pressure, and reconnecting the two parties in a much more sustainable way. This is healthy interdependence. The balance of self-reliance and belonging. God made Adam and Eve to be different. He encouraged free will and thinking for us to develop different beliefs and perspectives like our Muslim and Christian high school youth groups. He gave us different personalities and organs and skin colors. God also gave us the ability to prefer some people over other people. He gave us a tribe. God gave us the ability to connect in love. God gave us life, and God gave us love. You have your group, and your home, and your faith, and I have mine. But our greatest strategy against the elements is to trade skills and goods and love, knowing full well how the other one can be a threat to me. I have my complex emotions, and you have yours. It's both and all and me. God made us different and the same simultaneously. The ideals of loving all and world peace are beautiful, but really what I'm saying that in reality, we aren't all going to get along all the time, and that's okay. What's important is that we return to kindness instead of escalating nastiness. Break through the tension towards compassion. Grow in that tension towards love, towards human